Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome. I'm delighted to welcome you all to our second session of the Women's Cricket Network. To those of you who were with us for the first webinar, welcome back. And a big warm welcome to those who are tuning in for the first time this evening. My name's Alison Kirbishley, and it's a pleasure to be at the helm for this fantastic forum. Now, just a quick recap for those of you who are new to the network. The forum is all about bringing together players, coaches, and supporters to celebrate and grow the women's game here in the North. Our goal is to provide insights, share experiences, and create a supportive community that helps drive women's cricket forward. Now, since our last webinar, we've officially launched and introduced the team at a fantastic event at the Banks Homes Riverside Stadium in front of a packed audience and tons of media. But probably more importantly, the team has had an incredible opportunity to travel to Zimbabwe for a pre-season tour, an experience that challenged and strengthened the squad in so many ways, from adapting to different playing conditions to embracing a cricketing culture that was very different to theirs. So that brings us to tonight's topic, tour talk and match day preparation. We're going to be diving into what goes into preparing for high-level matches, especially in unfamiliar environments. And you're going to hear firsthand from two of our players and also one of the coaching staff about their experiences on the tour and the key takeaways that they've brought back from for the season ahead. Now, just a reminder, this webinar is part of an ongoing series where we're going to cover a huge range of topics and introduce different guests connected to Durham Cricket over the coming months. But most importantly, though, this is your network and we want to hear from you. So please feel free to drop your questions in the Zoom chat throughout the session, and we'll do our very best to answer as many of the questions as possible in the time frame that we have this evening. Now, also at the end of the webinar, we'll be running a quick poll where you can vote on future topics that you'd like to see us cover across these sessions, and your input really does help shape them. So please share your thoughts. And just before I do bring in our special guests, I wanted to give you all a quick plug on the date that I know is in the diary, April the 23rd, our first Durham women's home game against Essex. We have an exciting offer for all WCN members, which I'll expand on at the end before leaving you this evening. You can get discounted tickets using the code WCN25. Again, that will be in the chat with the link. And just please do not make sure that you miss this Durham women's team making history in their first professional home game at the Banks Homes Riverside Stadium. So with all that said, let's get started and dive into tonight's webinar by introducing my fantastic guests. Well, I'm thrilled to welcome Emily Windsor. Emily is a talented middle order batter all the way from Portsmouth. Emily joins Durham with a wealth of experience, having scored over 2,500 runs in white ball cricket. She's a proven winner, and she was a key part of the Southern Vipers' dominance and lifted the 100 trophy with Oval Invincibles back in 2022. She's a woman of many talents as well, and beyond the field, Emily is also going to contribute as a physio for Durham's male and female pathways, making a huge impact both on and off the pitch. And also someone I had the pleasure to chat to on launch night last month, Phoebe Turner, who joined Durham on a two-year deal at the end of last year. Phoebe is an exciting all-rounder from Northallerton with a very bright future here in Durham. She made history on the pre-season tour, becoming Durham women's first centurion with a brilliant 102 against Zimbabwe, but is equally as dangerous with the ball. Apparently, she's known as Tina to her teammates, which I need an explanation on. I'm not sure about that one, but she's a key part of the squad, both on and off the field. So you really are in for a treat tonight. We've also got a late arrival, James Bell. Now, I know we had advertised the women's head coach, but sadly something's come up last minute with Danny Hazel. But I am delighted to be joined by James Bell. He's the Durham women's strength and conditioning coach who's been out in Zimbabwe on tour with the team. So I'm sure, James, you'll be able to share some gems with us. I certainly hope so. And if we hear a little baby in the background, that's James doing multitasking, I hear. So with all that said, you really are in for a treat listening to these. So if you could all unmute yourselves, my guests, let's get straight into our chat. If I can start with the players. Well, first, welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. obviously, I mean, we'll start with reflections on the tour, because I know you only landed back, was it Saturday morning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it 3 wins in the 5 game series. It started with a bang, beating Zimbabwe so impressively, getting them all out for 189. I've got to give big licks to Katie Levick, who was obviously in webinar 1. Katie 5 for 34, and then Catherine Fraser 3 for 43. But what about that first century, Phoebe? What a way to start, eh?
I know. To be fair, it wasn't something I was expecting on the first game, but yeah, my body had no control of what I was doing. By the end of it, it was awful. Honestly, I wanted to cry.
Really?
But
Strength
no,
and
like
conditioning needs some work then, eh, James?
I think in the moment I didn't really like realize I made history until the message I got from my family and friends. Then I realized actually I've done something pretty cool. But again, like credit to the girls as well. Like they really helped me out there, and obviously it is really tough conditions, especially in the heat. Something I've not experienced before. So yeah, to get that under my belt on the first game, that was something that I was hopefully looking to build on. Yeah, so yeah.
What does it go through as somebody who's not a cricketer, like, how, what goes through the brain? Because obviously, as a viewer and as a fan, obviously when you're watching cricket and they're talking about, a 50 or a century, obviously, but what's going through that brain of yours?
To be fair, I said it to everyone. I think I was more excited to get my 50 than my 100.
Really,
So I
really.
knew I was getting my 50, whereas 100, I just wanted just crumble on the pitch. I
you,
can't lie.
you were hurting by that point.
Honestly, it was awful. But no, I was very nervous for my 50, like I said. But I think once you get to that point, you can really kick on. And that's when I kind of went up the gears. That's what's our like topic really, like what we look at for batting, like going up the gears and trying to really push them levels even higher. But I think, like I say, it's really good to have the support from the girls who I batted with, like for example, like me and Em had really good chats, and I kind of told her what I have to like. I like out there, like I like someone talking to me. I don't like to be like stood still in silence. So I think again, like me and I've never batted together before in a game, so it is good to have the new challenges, but also that team bonding exercise on the field as well is really important.
Yeah, I guess that's what the tour is about, isn't it? It's you get an experience for the season ahead, and like, back to back wins, because the second game, the second 50 over game, another century in the second match. This time Emma Marlowe 130 unbeaten, carrying a bat. How impressive was that? How impressive did the team I presume you all bonded and got right round Emma then?
Yeah, look, it's phenomenal. I think we've sort of set a state, really. We've in every 50 over game we played, we've had a batter go and get 100, and usually
No
100 is
pressure.
quite rare. So yeah, big win for the summer. But like Emma Marlowe, she's worked incredibly hard over the winter, like everyone has in this squad. So to go out there and put in on a performance like that, is credit to her. And hopefully we see many more from both Phoebe and Emma in the summer. But yeah, it's a fantastic team tour that I very much enjoyed, especially as there's a lot of the group that have come from the Northern Diamonds and know each other really well, off the field as well as on the field. But for me, coming from Portsmouth and from the Southern Vipers, who they all hate and still remind me that they hate and have rivals, I often get called a snake when
Oh,
something wrong. But
yeah.
for me to get to know everyone sort of as individuals more, was credit to the tour of Zimbabwe, and I'm really looking forward to the summer now.
Yeah, we touched on that with Maddie, and obviously because the I guess the main body of the team have been the Northern Diamonds. I think 9 of the players or whatever it was have come. So for you guys that are joining, Maddie pretty much just said exactly what you just said there. But clearly the tour has helped. You've got to learn how to say tour as well. Tour, all right, proper Geordie style. But the tour has obviously helped that kind of team bonding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to be honest, at the Southern Vipers, we didn't usually go on pre-season tour.
Because you get the sunshine down south.
That's true. But I really see the value of it, because I think it is the off-field stuff which carries on the field just as much. And I think sort of the first time I batted with Phoebe, like she was talking to me about what she wanted for me on the field, but yeah, like now I know what makes her tick, and I also know what can make her a little bit angry as well off they're important things going into a season, because cricket is never like this. There's highs, there's lows, and it's a long season, and that's going to happen. So I think to know each other when they're going through a bit of a tough time, what they need to pull each other back up, I think is really important to what creates a successful team.
Yeah, 100%. And James, I mean, both Phoebe mentioned it, and I know I saw a couple of interviews with Emma after her 130 unbeaten, and both of them obviously talked about how tired they were. I mean, from a strength and conditioning and a training perspective, obviously you're pulling this team together to be the best individual sports people they can be. But I mean, like, you know, it takes a lot out of the body, doesn't it, what these guys are doing out there for a long time, not just mind but body as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exceptional effort in both cases. Probably things that neither of them have done before. So to do them in the conditions that they experience, you know, high levels of humidity, high levels of UV, and obviously incredibly warm out there. You're really kind of pushing the boat out, and to try and replicate that in practice is incredibly difficult. Not least, no one's really getting a net session for 3 hours, and if they are, they've probably got 10 girls behind them knocking on the door trying to get a hit themselves. So to replicate that is really difficult, and I guess that's why you go on tour. You want to be able to try and do that firsthand, and prepare yourself as best you can for the remainder of the season. I think the toughest week girls will see should be the first one, where we've got the kind of most dense block of fixtures, but Zimbabwe was probably an over preparation in that sense. Without the conditions, the number of games we played in a short space of time is really high. So it prepares them really well for what's to come. In Phoebe's position, she's trying to carve herself out as a proper all-rounder now. So if she's going to bat for virtually 50 overs and then turn up and do it with the ball, that's going to require a lot of hard work to make sure she can do that and then back it up the second time. And in Emma's position, she was out there for 90 overs, and that's probably the biggest single workload for a game she's ever undertaken. So it's great that the girls can push boundaries at this early stage. And yeah, I guess the conundrum for me is to how we can get as many people doing that as possible, and as regularly as possible.
Yeah, and what were the facilities like that from a strength and conditioning angle out there? Like, what were the gym facilities? Because some of the social stuff. If you're not following, make sure you do follow, because some of the social stuff these girls were allowing us into was just great to watch.
Yeah, the facilities were excellent actually. We knew they'd be good from the men's tour in previous, but MI Gym looked after us really well. It's a relationship they seem to have built over a couple of years. It's a CrossFit gym by design, but it kind of gives you everything we need. And we end up going most days, whether the girls are training necessarily or whether they're simply recovering from the previous game. That gave us all the options that we could possibly need, really, to try and get people in the best possible shape to front up again and play again. Obviously, the demands and what it takes out of our players is different to the opposition, but they're playing the same schedule as we are, and to have those facilities available to try and give us the competitive edge is vital.
Yeah, and Emily touched on it, Phoebe, with the fact that you had 2 for 2 with the 250 over games that you played. Obviously, the next game you will be playing. I know you've got a couple of warm-ups, but you've got Essex on the 23rd, 50 over game. Like, what did you learn, and what have you learned from? Is it those individual kind of connections, or what sort of Danny and the coaching team kind of sort of instilled into you ahead of this Essex game?
I think a big thing at the tour was that team bonding and playing with new people, and like I say, playing with people you've never played with before and knowing what they like and what they're doing. But I think we've come into this Tier 1 team ready to compete, and I think that's what Danny's instilled in us really well. So, yeah, I think we've got a vast experience in the team. Like, we're missing the likes of Holly, Bess, Lauren Filer, Maddie away with England. So we've got loads of experience to come back with, and I think we're all really excited just to get going and just show everyone what we're made of. Because I think we are here to win silverware, and we've got a very, very strong team. So I think we're all just really excited just to get going, really.
Yeah, good stuff. It's certainly coming through. So, Emily, like, just to wrap up the Zimbabwe tour experience, like, what were your standout moments for you?
I think
You can share.
Well, I think obviously winning any game of cricket's great. I think the T20 under lights, which was at the old Harare ground,
It's
which
impressive.
yeah, and like some standout performances in that. I thought Leah Dobson, the way I saw her smack some sixes, having worked hard, coming back from injury. Both the hundreds and I guess the personal milestones that people don't go miss. But I think one of the other highlights was we played a game of traitors.
Well, that's definitely on my notes because I need to know. I
Yeah.
saw the wig make an appearance on social media. She promised, and for any of you watching that weren't here in the first webinar, I got a nice little insight into Emma Marlowe's Claudia impersonation. So yeah, that went down quite a lot, I heard.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was so fun. And like there were so many like side swipes and yeah, people not understanding what was going on. And then Kyle got voted out, who's one of our coaches, Kyle Coates, he's a bit of a cheeky man. He then stole the wig from Emma Marlowe and gave her like set challenges to get it back. But
Let's get it right. So she's quite well. I was quite disappointed at the launch actually last month that she didn't have it, and I was starting to worry that she'd maybe just big up herself, and then actually she wasn't going to deliver. But then to see that social media post where she was walking into the game with it on, I thought that was top draw. That was absolutely top draw. So well, I mean that was one of my other questions, was going to be any unexpected or funny moments you're about to share. But I mean, Traitors is obviously top of the bill.
yeah, definitely. And I think who won Traitors as well was top of the bill. So our physio, who's a new physio actually, she just came on tour with us. It was when we first met her, Kelly,
Wow.
and she basically had no clue. She'd never watched Traitors before in her whole entire life. The whole thing had no
Was
clue.
she a faithful or a traitor?
Well, she was a faithful most of the way through. Then she got recruited and won.
So now you see
And Phoebe
you
can't
can't
forgive
trust
her.
any of your support staff, the physios, the coaches. That's.
I was convinced it was James Bell, to be fair, the whole way through, and it turns out he was a faithful.
So
Uh,
I think you're all sort of putting putting the post out there for when they do celebrity traitors. You've already said you win us some silverware then, Phoebe, right? You're going to be a celeb already in this neck of the woods, so we can get you put on for celebrity traitors definitely. But look, we've got one of the questions in actually already. I might as well quickly ask that because you've already touched on it, Phoebe, about the players that we haven't got. Do we know if the England players are going to be back for the first game of the season?
Yeah,
Or am I putting you on the spot?
I'm pretty sure they are. If you've listened to Charlotte Edwards, who's the New England women's head coach interview, she was very adamant that all England players will be playing domestic cricket unless there's an injury. So I'm pretty sure we're expecting them. And
Actually, you've touched on that. And what were your thoughts with that appointment?
I'm buzzing for her. I've obviously played and been coached by her for 8 years down at the Vipers, and I think she's exactly what English cricket needs. I think hopefully she's the right person to get them back at the top of the tree rather than sort of fighting and getting knocked out of tournaments. So yeah, I'm personally really excited and really happy for her.
Yeah, that's great. That is really good. Well, listen, I mean, James, I mean, it's over just 2 weeks now until the first historic home game against Essex at the Banks Homes Riverside. What are like kind of you and the other coaches? What are your priorities with the team right now?
So we've done the vast majority of our kind of data collection and testing up to this point. So we've rounded off the winter really, figured out where people are. So we've got some benchmarks to refer back to if we pick anything up through the season. And it's really just about kind of keeping people ticking over. So we'll see them with regularity in the gym or on field to kind of top up on some of those things that we try and work on. But really the focus for me is on the skills at the moment. So we try and offer as much time back to that as we can, get people in the best possible frame of mind wherever possible, so they can go out and perform their skills. Quite typically we'll come in and train 2 days before, and they'll do like a brief top up, primarily again skills focused, and the day before, and then either travel depending on where we are in the country, or pop their feet up for the rest of the day to come back as fresh as possible. I'm a big believer in kind of getting people into the right frame of mind. What they do physically is important, but if that's what gets them in the right headspace to perform, then that's kind of always what we'll go for. This is a great opportunity to try and bed those habits in, with a couple of warm-up games, in addition to what we've done in Zimbabwe. The more people can kind of hone their habits and do things the same all the time, so they know what to expect. I find that kind of breeds success and confidence for those individuals. And yeah, we just want to try and let them fly, really, give them the tools, and then let them get out there.
Yeah, fantastic. We've had a question in from Nikki. So this is to Phoebe and Emily. What do you do to control the nerves before you go into battle bowl?
I think for me, I used to be a bit of an overthinker. So every time I go on the pitch, I'd overthink everything I do. But I've worked on my mindset being just try and be as calm as possible and just going with a fresh mind. Like whatever happens, happens. I think there's a lot of other factors outside of cricket that can come into the cricket environment, and that makes it even worse for you. So I think just going in with a clear mind, and like you're going to make more mistakes than you're never going to be perfect. So I think that's a big thing for me. And like I say, whenever I bowl or whenever I bat, I just know the job I need to do and just try and execute as best as possible. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But then I can review at the back end of the game with the coaches and see what I could have worked on and how I can move forward into the next game with, again, a clear mind.
What about you, Emily? Are you a nervous sort of player, or can you control the nerves?
Do you know what? I'm a nervous watcher, so I'm worse watching than I am playing. But I think for me, it's about trying to stick in the moment. I think quite often we get nerves because of external factors, or thinking, what if, or I've got a lot to do here. But I think focus on what you can control. One of my sayings is control the controllables, and quite often that is what the next ball is, or what the next ball you're going to bowl. So I think trying to stay in the moment and forget about what's happened. Like if I hit 6 off the last ball, the next ball's more important. That's irrelevant. So I think focusing on what you can control is a big one for me, which is probably why I like being out there in the middle rather than watching, because I am in control.
Yeah, it's true. They often say that it's sort of friends and family and close, coaches or whatever are the ones that are so nervous because they're not in control of it. They're just sitting watching. So yeah, I completely understand that. So I think I've got one more question that I can ask before we do our final question. One from let's go really serious. Vic is asking, what is your go-to meal the night before a match? Phoebe, what's that?
You know what? I love fajitas. I can't lie. Having fajitas is my favourite thing ever.
Are we a mix of chicken and beef, or is it?
Oh no, it got me chicken, peppers and onions.
What was the food like in Zimbabwe?
To be fair, I got mostly like a takeaway every night, but it weren't bad. But like Nando's was a big one. Nando's is the main one.
You're after a Nando's black card, aren't you? That's what you're after.
Well, I'd love that. I'd love a Nando's black card. But no, we used to we'd obviously go to places out as well, but especially after a game day, the last thing you want to do is go back out. You want to be in bed and just chilling, really. So whenever it was a game day, that's what I'd do. But apart from that, I would go out to for a meal with everyone. And I think the socialising part with the men as well, that was really important. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah. And what's your go-to, Emily, the night before?
Do you know what? I don't have one.
Do you know? Sometimes there's superstitions because it can kind of get in your brain, and then when you can't get it, then it stresses you out. So yeah, you just
whatever.
Well, that shows me that you're not a nervous person. Then you obviously can eat anything.
Well, I've actually got loads of allergies, so but so I struggled in Zimbabwe. But
oh no.
Yeah, but I think for me, I switch on a game day. So I can't eat breakfast, for instance. Right. I can't eat breakfast till I get to the ground. Don't know what it is. Mm. But the night before, I'm trying to chill more than I am focus on the game ahead. So
actually, you mentioned, Phoebe, that one because I saw one of the pictures, and I presume it might have happened on the day of the cup final. There was a lot of Newcastle shirts, and then there was one Sunderland shirt. Who was that person that wore the Sunderland shirt?
I think that could be Laura Trotter. I think she
Get in.
had
I mean, not
on.
that I'm a Middlesbrough fan, but I just love the fact that was that was.
She'll love that now. She'll love that.
I love it. I love it. I've got one more quick one from James, which actually is probably relevant for you, James. The question is, what do you do to keep energy levels high during long games? So really, actually speaking to somebody that's the strength and conditioning coach, what's the sort of recommendations or kind of pointers that you make sure that the women are aware of?
Yeah, I mean, fueling's probably the most important thing there. So fueling pre-game as well as during the game, those will look a little different. So you kind of want lots of slow release carbs originally. So kind of wholemeal foods are quite recommended, cereals, that kind of thing, oats, anything that's going to take a little while to burn off, things you don't burn immediately. And then during the game, you'll kind of switch carb source to kind of white breads, white pastas. If you were between innings, but also forms of glucose or sugar in some cases. So we'll run jelly babies and boiled sweets and the likes out to give people like a quick hit. Caffeine can be used, but if you're not like a typical caffeine user, then just be mindful with that. But yeah, caffeine and carbs tends to be the king for things like that. And then especially in kind of hotter conditions, hydration and salt loss is something else to be really mindful of. So yeah, that was something we were hammering home whilst we were away, but is still relevant when you get back in this country. It's tricky because lots of people don't like eating during the game or right before the game. So the way you skin it is different for the individual. Some people will drink their calories instead to try and keep themselves going. But there's no kind of one-stop shop with that. You've got to maybe figure out what works for you and figure out whoever you're working with what's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's tons of products out there and tons of brands, but is there a brand that you guys were? I know that Morton sort of moved into the running world in a big way at the elite level, and they've created a new bicarb, which literally every Tom, Dick, and Harry that does anything over 800 meters is using now. Is it a supplement, like you said? Is it each to their own with each of the players, or is it something that like the club kind of have started to recommend certain supplements or drinks that are, like you say, good for things like carbs and salts and sugars?
Of course, yeah. So the club buys into a partnership with companies, and that happens kind of across the country. So the company we're with at the moment, and they supply all our supplements, and they've got a number of products that kind of work for them. And then yeah, in certain cases, players have products that they prefer, or Emily's one of them. She has a couple of things from a different company that she prefers to use. So yeah, it really is quite individual. And you know, the company we're currently using isn't one that I'm necessarily familiar with either. I've used another one. So yeah, without wanting to like plug for somebody, because obviously
yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Supplements are available. The companies are pretty good at looking after you. The athletes have the extra hoop to jump through that they need all their stuff to be tested.
Yeah.
Doping as well, but that might not be relevant to everybody. But yeah, I just encourage people to try them, give them a little go. You don't have to go down the expensive route either. You can go down a food first approach if that's what you prefer. But yeah, it's definitely an individual thing and just worth trying a few things to see what works for you.
No, absolutely. Well, listen, I've got my final question, which we're actually going to lead into a poll as well and have a bit of audience interaction here. And I'm hoping that you've both been sort of given the heads up on this one. So it's what's in your game day bag, not your kit, anything other than your kit. So I really do hope that you have been teed up and you're now going to unveil a Claudia wig or something. I don't know. There we go. Right, what's that, Emily? Oh, hand warmers. Please tell me you didn't need them in Zimbabwe.
Not in Zimbabwe, but I do up north now.
Up north. Have all your family packed you off with them?
Honestly, I wish I could show you. Actually, it's in the other room. I've got a box. I've got 2 boxes like that. It was my leaving gift from the south to the north.
So fun.
To be honest, I did need them in the south as well.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting it a lot more up here.
But we've turned the temp up this week. This is a good week.
It's still cold. I've got my heating on. Coming from Zimbabwe, we'll blame that.
I love it. I love it. And what about you, Phoebe?
Mine's quite a boring one, but I can't go without my headphones.
Look at them.
So on game day, whenever I travel anywhere, I have to have my headphones in, on and off the bus.
What's the tunes?
I'm a big fan of like upbeat music.
We should have had a poll.
That just gets me going. That just gets me going.
We should have had a poll on what we think Phoebe.
What you think? Yeah.
Give us a tune, Phoebe. I don't know what you mean by upbeat music.
I like Ocean Drive by Duke Dumont.
How did that go?
What you say?
How does that go?
I'm not singing that. That's on TikTok to find out.
We'll get Phoebe's TikTok mom on to sing that for us. That moves us on to, we've got a couple of polls that we're going to do quickly now. So following on from that last question to the girls, if we could ask everyone that's online now, if you can just fill in, apart from kit, what's in your game day bag, and we'll have a quick view of the answers from that poll. We'll get some reaction from that. So what is most important to you in your kit bag? And then hopefully I'm going to see what that poll has brought up. My nice assistant, Sam, hopefully. It does say host and panelists cannot vote, sadly. So, and I'm just waiting. Am I putting the poll up? I'm looking to my right, to my
perfect time for you to ask Phoebe.
Yeah, you could. I know. Just sing us through this. Sing us through while we wait for the answers, Phoebe.
Oh dear, I can't do it, Winnie. Can't deal with you.
So apparently, number one, we haven't got it on the screen, but number one is painkillers are in the kit bag. That's not a bad one. That might have helped you as you were edging towards that 100 when you said. I'm not quite sure how you could quickly do a painkiller. It wouldn't look right, would it? Really, wouldn't it? Drinks break and just quickly take the ibuprofen on board. I'm wondering whether that's just an idea of how old our viewers and our forum is this evening, because I think mine would be the same. But paracetamol and painkillers. Well, on our second poll of the night, we would very much love to hear from you on any future content that you'd like to see in these webinars. Any new ideas? Obviously, we want to see Emma Marlowe in a Claudia wig. I mean, that's a given, but nothing is off the table. So we do have a few suggested topics, but feel free to also add your own into the chat. So as you can see there, coaching skills and drills from the pros, female well-being and the sport and the role sport can play, overcoming barriers to female participation, careers in cricket. I think James has just given us a great example of a fantastic career that you can go down, if you like. Mastering social media to promote your club, or feel free to add anything you want into that chat box. And then we will certainly take on board all of these suggestions and look at the votes, and that will massively help us mold and direct the next 4 webinars that we've got coming in the coming months. So unfortunately time has sadly flown, and it brings us to well, there we go, there's our poll results as well. So a lot of you wanting female wellbeing and the role sport can play, which is fantastic, and I look forward to some of the other suggestions. I mean, for all we know, Emma Marlowe might be on here as a traitor and suggesting that we talk more about traitors. But so as I said, unfortunately the time has flown, and sadly it does bring us to the end of tonight's session. Thank you all for joining us. We've really had some fantastic insights from our guests here this evening. I'm sure you agree, and I really do hope that you all enjoyed hearing about the team's experiences and the preparation for the season ahead. So before we leave you, I mentioned earlier the exciting opportunity that we have for all Women's Cricket Network members, your family and friends, and of course clubs. On April the 23rd, we have this special match day experience lined up. And as a WCN member, you'll get access to exclusive benefits throughout the day. A reminder again, you can get discounted tickets using the code WCN25. You'll get exclusive access to the Castle View suite from 10 o'clock. You'll also have a private space to connect with each other, meet players and coaches, and enjoy the match from inside or outside the lounge. And I've just had it on good authority before we came on air tonight that we'll be joined by the Mayor. North East Mayor Kim McGuinness will also be joining us, and looking forward to coming and watching the first ever historic women's game on the hallowed turf at Durham. We've got a coaches masterclass during the lunch interval, and there'll be a coaching masterclass in the indoor centre where you can either get hands-on or just simply watch our expert coaches bringing women's and girls cricket to life. A link with all the details is going to be sent out after tonight's webinar, so please make the most of this unique opportunity, and make sure that you come and join us. If you did miss anything or you want to revisit tonight's session, the webinar recording is going to be available on the Durham Cricket YouTube channel, and we'll also send a link via email. And finally, just to make sure to mark your calendars, our next webinar is on April the 24th, hopefully when we'll be celebrating the women's team's first home game win over Essex. We'll be covering another exciting topic and introducing you to a lot more of the Durham team, and we do really hope to see you all there. I'll actually be down in London because it's London Marathon Week. Is that on the cards, Phoebe? Emily, you fancy a marathon?
I think I'll pass.
Well, you'll have done a marathon by the time you did it.
Yeah,
I would have thought. Actually, yeah, we need to start tracking you next time. But yeah, a huge thank you to our guests, to Emily Windsor, Phoebe Turner and James Bell for the last late call up there, for their time, their insights, and of course to all of you for being part of this Women's Cricket Network. I really do hope you all have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you all at the match on April the 23rd and back here for the webinar on April the 24th. So thank you. Thanks, girls.